Welcome back to United TV. A little bit of a different Monday morning show this morning. Also, we're going to be talking to a special guest today, going to be in the studio in hopefully a few minutes. We're going to be looking at some of the news regarding TONALI, potential transfer targets as well. Can Manchester United look at maybe taking advantage of the fact that Newcastle are maybe forcing TONALI to make a decision what he does next season? Manchester United could take advantage of that. So just to give you a kind of sneak preview as well, we will be looking at some of the situation regarding TONALI. We will be looking at other midfield targets as well. I don't want to talk too much about some of the tenuous links about Romero. I don't think Man United should be looking at Romero as a signing. But I will be going through all your comments and questions, and we'll be getting the opinion of Lou as well. There is a link to her channel pinned. So we'll go through a few of the comments as well, see what people think. Welcome to the chat. Ian says, thought I'd tune in, having a break. Good to see you, Ian. Let me know your thoughts regarding options as well. I will put some polls in the comments to discuss things. Say a big up to you, Readers a Bet as well. Great stream last night. Really enjoyed that chat. And we will be going into a lot of these things in more detail as well. Said, will Scholes love Sandro? I don't know. I think with this one, the only thing I could see recently regarding opinions from ex-professional Manchester United players is that they're talking quite positively at the moment regarding Michael Carrick, which is a good thing. And we will be going into the situation at Newcastle. Where do people think in terms of what is going to be the transfer situation regarding midfielders for Man United? It does seem to be that there's going to be, and when we get Lou's opinion, we will be looking into the top transfer targets. Is TONALI going to be one of these players that has to make a decision on his football career quite soon? There's a big fallout at Newcastle. It looks like Eddie Howe's getting a bit frustrated with players like Gordon, players like TONALI, questioning their commitment to the club. It could be that Newcastle are essentially one transfer away from actually being able to do a few things they want to try and get done. Welcome from Spill the Tea, Lou. Good to see you in the chat. Good to see you, Stephanie, as always, legend. Good to see you, Rob. Dibs, good to see you. For people I'm not familiar with, you might have to remind me which football team you support. Predominantly, this channel is probably about 80% Manchester United fans, but we do have quite a good mix of different fans as well that support different clubs as well. So this is going to be something we're focused on Manchester United tonight. But if you're a Newcastle fan, there's going to be a lot of things to discuss. So welcome, I say welcome back. So we spoke literally like 5 minutes ago on your channel, and we're going to be talking about midfielders because Manchester United need midfielders. One crazy thing I saw this morning, or actually I saw it in the comments of a morning stream I did, that somebody said they think that we should, this isn't my view, I'm just going to say everyone has different views and I respect them, but they said we should sell Bruno and Mainoo. And I thought if we sell the only two midfielders we've got left at the club in the summer, we're going to have a rebuild, which is nearly impossible. But welcome to the chat. Thank you for the raid, Lou. How are you doing?
I am good. We had a great time, and now we get to delve all the way into Manchester United. I see all the familiar faces in the chat already, so big up to everybody coming across. And of course, thank you for being on my channel. I'm looking at your background there, and it's quite beautiful, and mine is just a plain wall. And I keep promising the people I'm going to do something with this wall, and I just haven't quite got around to it, but yours is quite nice. I like it. It's impressive.
How are you feeling now regarding like the transfer stories? I did say as like a teaser that I was looking around sort of transfer stories, and there was a lot being talked about of Newcastle and Sandro Tonali. This is kind of a where will he go? That in terms of like it looks like he wants to potentially move from Newcastle. It looks like Eddie Howe is under a lot of pressure to maybe uh, try and if you sell one player, you can balance the books a little bit along those lines. And I think everybody's looking at TONALI as being a really good target. Gordon as well. I think he's another player. I don't want to talk about Gordon because we don't really want him at the club. But when I saw the story that TONALI potentially would like to go to Italy, this was a kind of a story put out there, I think a few months ago. The question is going to be that he's going to cost a lot of money. I don't know how much money he's going to cost. That's just a guess at this point, but it might price him out of these. Just a quick question, really, is all the midfield targets. Do you have a favorite? Because everybody has a favorite target, and I won't kind of like try and bias it or influence you. What would you go for?
I'll be honest. I struggle with this. And the guys in a kind of that are here for my channel will know this. I struggle with transfer windows. And the reason I struggle with transfer windows is because I feel like there is so much nonsense and there's so much rubbish to wade through before you get to anything that's really a sort of substantial story. I can tell you the number one I definitely don't want. I do not want Baleba. I know we're talking about TONALI, and I will answer your question about TONALI. The
No,
one
that's
I
fine.
really,
That's
really,
fine though.
really just have no interest in is Baleba. And again, it's back to what we talked about on my channel about Gordon. It's very much the attitude, the personality, I think is just as important for me as the skill. I don't feel that Baleba has shown the right attitude. I think he had one really good season, didn't get the move he wanted, and now he's at a really poor season. And regardless of that's petulance or he was put off or whatever it was, to me, it tells me if he's struggling at it in a Brighton shirt, if he's struggling at a team that's not as big as Man United, and we know how heavy the Man United shirt is, I don't feel he has the right attitude, mentality, maybe even ability to come in and work in our midfield. So he's the one I don't want, and I also think he's probably the one that's most likely because that's the one we keep really hearing and hearing and hearing about, which makes me sad. In terms of Sandro Tonali, while I think he's a fantastic player, I do think, and again, you're sort of guessing, but I think a lot of the reports do seem to make it more likely that he would go back to Italy rather than staying in the Premier League if he leaves at all. Because we actually spoke about this briefly on my channel the other day. He came out, he was asked about this. He was asked about moves and the rumours and everything that was surrounding him. And he said, well, you know, after the charges he had faced previously, after he basically got in a bit of trouble, he kind of stays off social media. He says that he doesn't really listen to the nonsense or the rumors. And he said it happens all the time. You know, you have a good week and you're moving, you have a bad week and you're staying, nobody wants you. He said, I just don't really listen to it. I don't pay much attention to it. I laugh. So he never really outright denied anything, but he also did sort of poo-poo it a little bit. I think there's a lot of noise coming out, particularly from his agent. So I think it's difficult to say there won't be a move. I'm not convinced it will be in the Premier League. And if it is in the Premier League, I'm not necessarily convinced it will be us because he's a very good player. It would be a high price. It would be a lot of negotiating. And I don't know, while we had a good summer last summer, I don't know if that's a bit out of our league because his agent is already making moves. He's already coming out with statements like that. Manchester City are potentially interested. And I just do start to wonder, is that a bit complicated for Manchester United? Is that something we're actually capable of doing? So I don't necessarily, there's a lot of drama there around it. There's a lot of noise already starting. And then Ben Jacobs had been saying recently that it will either be Bruno G or Sandro Tonali, but that Newcastle are highly unlikely to sell both. So they're kind of racing each other to get a move. And whoever gets the move first, the other one's going to be forced to stay.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That was before the Gordon stuff come out. So is it a case that, well, if Gordon goes, neither Tonali or Bruno G will be sold? Do you know, is it a case they only want to sell one? Because at the moment, if they're only selling one, Bruno G looks the most likely. So
it's tricky, isn't it?
Yeah,
what I was thinking,
hard.
I was almost laughing then, not because of what you're saying. I was laughing a little bit because it feels quite funny to have a conversation where you think, right, you guys, whoever can get a move, you get to have a move. The rest are forced. It feels like I think with some of them, that I think with Gordon, Gordon seems to be one of these players that he was reminding me a bit of Raheem Sterling, where I can't remember the Raheem Sterling's career, but it seemed to be that he was forcing moves and saying like he wants to play for a club that's going to win trophies, and it had that kind of arrogance to it. And I think that's the sort of thing that might put people off. I think with Tonali, I was looking at Manchester United from my kind of Manchester United bias and thinking, what do I want to replace with like Casemiro is going to go, and I'm looking at the skill set Casemiro's got, but also Casemiro's got unbelievable experience. You're talking about someone that's been lifting Champions Leagues, and I'm thinking we're potentially looking at like say Tonali's international and obviously Champions League experience as well. And I'm thinking that he ticks a few boxes for me, whereas Belieber, you look at other team players like him and think that it's gonna be a big step up, a really big step up. And if you look at the Premier League, there's a few teams struggling. that have got very good midfielders. And you look at Nottingham Forest and think Nottingham Forest are struggling, but Anderson has been one of their best players. And you look at, say, a lot of people now talking about Fernandes at West Ham, and people are talking about Alex Scott at Bournemouth, and it's starting to feel like we've got too much choice. And when you like you said you were ruling out Belieber personally.
Yeah.
I've kind of said the same sort of thing. For some reason, at the back of my mind, I don't know why it is. I think Manchester United want to buy Belieber still, and it feels like he's going to be one that. Do you remember? I'm trying to think. Like, say Sancho, it felt like we just kept going and going and going. And I was thinking, like I think the Belieber situation now, there's better options there. I've got a few of the expensive options that we've been talking about recently, and if Manchester City are heavily linked to Anderson, Manchester City heavily linked to TONALI, they can't sign everybody. And I was thinking
Wouldn't put
that
it
if you're,
past them.
yeah, well, they might do. And I was thinking, can you imagine Tonali and Anderson going to City and effectively being on the bench? Like that's kind of one thing that might happen. Like if you think Trafford last season, it might happen. I would just say that if you could pick a few, are you interested in players that say some non-Premier League options? Because one of the things that I also think in terms of if you put Belieber as being a likely attempt at signing, I think Angela Stiller because of Vivell. It's almost like every time I read an Angela Stiller story, it's got a picture of Vivell saying he wants him, and
Yeah.
that's kind of you said agent talk. Agent talk is
Yeah.
one thing where the best example of that might be almost like Emi Martinez last season saying, "I want to join Man United," and think, "Well, yeah, but we've got other options, Emi." And I was thinking, for me, Angela Stiller looks like the one where Vivell really rates him, and the price tag apparently at the moment with the new release clause is about 42 million. And I'm looking at that thinking, actually, that's pretty good value when we consider how much these players on screen might be looking at.
Yeah, no, I have to say, I think just to go back to slightly what you were saying about Manchester City, I understand what you mean. They can't buy everybody, but my thinking is they're losing Bernardo Silva, so they like to improve all the time anyway. They're constantly buying, upgrading, moving on. They do that anyway. So I wouldn't have been surprised if they were buying one, even if everybody was staying. To know that Bernardo Silva is leaving, I would suggest they probably could buy two, and they need at least one of them to be a flagship signing because Bernardo Silva is more than just a midfielder. He's more than just a player. He's like an aura. He's such an important player for them. So I wouldn't put it past them trying to sign a Tonali as like a flagship and another to try and fill that space. I think Anderson is very good. And while it's not necessarily football related, I thought what he's gone through recently, God love him, losing his mum, and then to come on the pitch and play and have, by all accounts, a very good game days later, I think shows an absolutely incredible mentality. It shows an incredible inner strength. And I think that's something that's really important. It shows that he's very, in himself, he's a very strong character. That I think is incredibly important. And while I understand that's not football related, you either have those traits or you don't. And I think to see that, I thought was just remarkable. And that's the kind of mentality and strength and sort of that's the type of personality I would like to see. I do agree with you. I think probably Manchester City are more likely to get him over us. But I think if I was picking, he is the one that I would want. I'm not necessarily against players coming from outside the Premier League. I think what we've done right this season, I thought Cunha and Mbeumo having that Premier League experience, that Premier League success, not just that they've played in the Premier League, because, for example, Baleba has played in the Premier League, but Mbeumo and Cunha had Premier League success. They had good performance in the Premier League. They were playing well in the Premier League. That, I think, can be important, particularly when our team is so developmental, particularly when we have so many players that are kind of only coming of age now. And obviously you spoke there about the fact that we're losing Casemiro. Not only is he an absolute defensive monster, he is aerially very talented. He's a threat in the opposition's box. He also brings an incredible know-how, an incredible experience, an incredible just any situation that these young players are going through. Casemiro has seen it and done it. He is also not on the pitch, not just as a defensive midfielder, not as an attacking midfielder, not as a threat in the box, but just as a person to have in the dressing room. We are losing so much in one player. While I'm not against signing from outside the league, I think we do need to be signing players with a level of experience. And that's what I mean. I really liked the strength I saw in Anderson. I haven't seen a huge amount of Stiller. I know everybody's talking about him, but I'll be honest, I don't watch a lot of football outside the Premier League. I spend a lot of time watching the Premier League. There's so many hours in a day, and sometimes you just don't have the time.
Yeah,
but I've seen,
that's completely
you know,
understandable.
But I like Vivel. I feel like Vivel, out of all of the people we have in our higher ups, he seems to be making the best choices of the bunch so far. He is the one, if I had to pick somebody to trust within our club, and I mean, the options are scarce, Vivel probably is the one I would lean towards. So if Vivel reckons he's a good shout, I would probably be happy enough to go along with that as a second signing. I think we need a minimum of 2. We really need more, but with the amount of players we need, we're not really unlikely to get more than 2. So I think we probably need 2. I would say we definitely need one kind of experienced head, somebody who's really, really just top notch. And then I would be happy enough to get somebody like a Stiller as well. But again, I'm kind of going off secondhand information rather than my own sort of full opinion on him as a player.
I think that's absolutely understandable, because I've made this comment as well, saying that when we signed Lamans, I could look at the stats, I could see graphs, I could see people, and I said, I'll just have to watch him and then make an assessment on what because I think when you look at the stats in the league he's playing in, it was like very, very good. His shot stopping was ridiculous. And I think when he actually joined us, I then go, right, actually, no, it's a really good signing, really sensible purchase. And I think with Vivel, he's got a bit of credit in the bank for Manchester United fans of making good decisions. Mm-hmm. The best in terms of, like, if people are watching that watch the Bundesliga, I do know a few people that watch the Bundesliga, and the feedback they gave me was he was a really good option for the price, like like almost like a no-brainer. When it was going to be, the release clause was about 35, now it's about 42 million. And I said, yeah, what I think is Manchester United look to sign 2 to 3 midfielders. Well, I'm hoping for 3. And I think, but you have to get one with Premier League experience. And I was thinking, if you think back to last summer, we bought 3 players. We went from Mbeumo and Cunha that were almost, in terms of like what can be a guarantee success, you get someone that's 25, that's been in the Premier League for multiple years, that's one of the best players in their respective teams. And with Cunha, he was unbelievable when he played us last season. He was like making us look silly, and you think he's so good. He was one of my favorite players, that non-Man United players, and actually, and Mbeumo was one of my favorite non-Man United players. So they kind of like really, I think we made some good signings. And then when we came to the third signing, we went for a non-Premier League player in Sesko, who I think's shown loads of potential. He's going to improve, and he's already scored a decent amount of goals, probably as many as some of the other new signings. So I was thinking, if you're making 2 or 3 signings, you can go for like an Angela Stiller, because the price is really good. If people watch Angela Stiller, and a few people I know do, just post some comments to like give us a reason why you think he's good, what you like about his skill set. One of the things that I've been hearing recently, and this is people watching their information, is that they see he's like maybe most comparable to Wharton in terms of players on the screen. They say he's like, his passing is very good. I think people sometimes post a few clips or tag me on social media, and I think it is about the range of passing I think they put in. And I think when you think about the game we've played against Crystal Palace, we conceded a penalty that came from a very good Wharton pass. And I think United looking at, I think the Vel came out and said something that you could buy, say, 2 players in the Bundesliga for the price of 1. I think he was talking about Crystal Palace's valuation of Wharton compared with trying to go for maybe like Angela Stiller plus another player. And I do think that I'd love to get a Premier League experienced player. TONALI seems to be the only one at the moment that kind of ticks all those boxes in terms of the age he's at, international experience. But I do think that I've been making this campaign for Anderson for about a year, and every time I hear a story, the price seems to go up and up and up. And I just think that it's got to the stage where, have we missed the boat? Like, could we have got in earlier, like a year ago? It's really difficult, isn't it? I don't mind having, because the comment I was making, say, yesterday was there's no way Manchester United are going to sign 3 of these players. Like you're not going to have Anderson and Mainoo with Wharton watching from the bench. You're not going to do that. And I was thinking like TONALI could, or Anderson for me, you put him next to Mainoo, you have Angela Stiller, and then maybe even like Hackney or Gomez or someone that's going to be a little bit cheaper. Not I don't mean that in disrespect. I mean a sensible price for players that are coming up. And I think that would be quite a good balance. I do kind of use the word balance too much. I appreciate for people. I do think that I kind of worry a little bit that we move on experienced players and then we rely on a team of youngsters, a bit like Chelsea did. I think Chelsea maybe they. I'm looking at the targets as well. This feels like a Man United hit list, doesn't it? Everyone that's going to be 21, 22. I mean, Tonali's a little bit older, and that's the difficulty. I think we're looking in the right areas, and when we start looking in the right areas, we are going to have to battle with Man City and Liverpool.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think whilst we are going to be back in the Champions League, I still don't think we're necessarily a massively attractive prospect if you're younger, because the younger people get, so like Cunha and Mbeumo wanted to come to Manchester United because it was Manchester United. That's really what sold the move for us, was our club and who we are. But as we go kind of younger and younger and younger, which is what we seem to be doing, as you say, sort of echoing the Chelsea model, which is obviously being very unsuccessful for them, but for some reason we seem to be following it anyway. The younger you go, because we haven't been as successful in recent years, what happens then is they look at the recent success of Manchester City versus Manchester United, and they become a more attractive prospect purely because of age, not because of anything else, because that's what these guys have grown up with, was the Manchester City era. So it comes a point where we can't just rely on our reputation of being Manchester United. We need to offer something else as well. And I don't just mean lots of money. We need to offer the opportunity of success. And I saw there Irish Pit Terrier in your chat was saying we won't progress with 2 midfielders, not with 2 games a week. We struggle. The thing is, we have struggled this season with 1 game a week. I went through all of the injuries that we have had with having 1 game a week. And it's incredible. So I agree with Irish Pit Terrier. We do need more than 2, but I don't think we'll get more than 2, because I think, as you say there, Sesko has a lot of potential. He's going to be very good. We have no backup. None. Xerxes is not a striker, and Shea Lacey, I think, is very good, but there's nobody really who's sort of saying, is a backup. There is no backup. We have, at Manchester United, we have 1 striker. Sesko, that's it. What happens if he gets injured? What happens if he has a bad spell of form? What do we do? We're having to move other players out of position into the position. So for me, we need at least 1 more striker, because 1 striker at Manchester United is an absolute disgrace, and I don't even know how it's happened. I think we're probably okay on the left wing. For me personally, I know obviously he's out injured at the minute. I think Dorgu was better as a left winger than as a left back. I would have him playing on the wing. I think he was like a different player out there. I think wings were pretty okay with the players we have. 10s, obviously, we're pretty okay with the players we have. Then we probably do need 3 midfielders. I would say, well, we might get 2 if we're lucky. So far, I need definitely another striker and at least 2 midfielders. I also think we need a left back, because if we're moving Dorgu to left wing, which I think is where he's better, Luke Shaw, after an international competition, I guarantee you Luke Shaw is not going to be fit next season. He's just absolutely, we all know it. Luke Shaw is fit for the international tournament. As soon as that is over, Luke Shaw will no longer be fit. Therefore, we won't actually have a left back at all, because Dorgu won't be in that position and Luke Shaw is going to be injured. So we absolutely need a left back. I have been talking since the start of this season that we need another centre back. The very beginning of this season, I have been saying it, and everybody told me I was crazy. We have so much depth there. How could we possibly need another centre back? Well, hello, Chelsea match, where we had 1 actual centre back available. The thing is, Matthias de Ligt I quite like. You think he's talented. He's been out for a very long time with a somewhat unknown injury that appears to be to his back. We have no idea if or when or how he's going to recover. I think Martinez needs to be moved on. which is very controversial in the Manchester United community. I love his personality. I think he's a very talented player. He is injury prone and availability is important, and he's not available a lot of the time. He is injury after injury after injury after injury. It is going to get to the point where he has so many injuries we can't move him on. He is going to be another Luke Shaw. He is going to be another Anthony Martial. He is going to be another Mason Mount. We need to move him on now while he still has value, not because he's not talented. Thank you, Kenny Fan TV, because he's unreliable. He has to go. He has to go. We need to get somebody who's going to be available. Then we move to Harry Maguire, who I believe has had such a renaissance given the reputation he had with some of the fan base for quite some time, and potentially rightfully so. But he is getting older. He's getting less reactive. He has probably been our best centre-back this season through no choice of his own. He's had no choice. But if we had enough centre-backs, we're not keeping Harry Maguire at his age. We're just not. We're doing it out of necessity. And then you have Yoro, who is young, who is developmental, who I think so far has been underwhelming. And we've had Heaven, who I love, I think is fantastic. But that is not depth. That is a mess. It needs to be cleared out.
There's numbers, isn't there? There's numbers. But
yes.
No, I'm going to respond because obviously we've only just met. Today's the first time we've spoken.
Yes.
So people that know me, I remember last season, if you remember, Martinez, there was a couple of games where I think he went in a bit erratic. It was like one way went in two-footed, lucky not to get a red card. Then, in my opinion, he started off quite badly last season. He then started actually improving a bit. Then he got an injury. And I said this about 2 games before the injury happened. I said, like, 2 big injuries already. I think Manchester United, I think Alessandro Martinez might have been it's not a bad signing when we got him, but we need to get someone, in my mind, that's a bit better. And I kind of thought the same about a year ago, that we should move Martinez on. But I know it wasn't a popular opinion because he's got a lot of fans. I'm not saying he's terrible. I just think for the long-term good of Man United, we need to probably move him on and look at someone else. I think the Maguire extension is almost like a necessity at the moment because Aiden Heaven and Yoro are potentially the players for the future. And I think you need to have some experience. I would love Manchester United to look at the gap and go, right, look at where Maguire is. Look at the age you've got of Aiden Heaven and Yoro. There's just that gap where I thought De Ligt was going to fill that mid-20s experienced kind of position we need at centre-back. And the injury, I think, with De Ligt is kind of, we should be looking at a centre-back now. I think it's almost like, and I mean, we got a bit unlucky with suspensions at the moment, but I'm kind of thinking, imagine if we played the Leeds game and then 3 days later we've got to go to the Bernabeu, or we're playing another big Champions League match, and then we got Chelsea on the weekend. And I was thinking, like, this is like, Maguire's not going to be able to play this many games. And we're looking at this in terms of, I think we got unlucky with De Ligt, and I think that means we need to sign another player. And Alessandro Martinez might be someone that, if someone was interested and the price was right, I'd be looking at Van Heck or Murillo or other players around that we've been considering. I think Senesi is one that will actually be a free transfer to get some experience in, because I think Aiden Heaven is the future, but I think it's not that Aiden Heaven and Yoro won't start every single game next season. They're 19 and 20, and it's difficult. I don't know whether you have a favourite in terms of player we sign. I probably listed a few players in centre back. I just think we need to look at someone that at the moment, if you've got Van Heck, Senesi, Murillo, someone that's going to be a few years of Premier League experience, someone that's going to be mid-20s that you could potentially be a first-team player, walk into Premier League games that walk into absolutely no problem, would be good. So I just think it's about a bit of depth. And unfortunately, I don't know what is the issue with De Ligt. I worry a little bit because it feels a little bit like the Molasses situation regarding silence and media. I'm just wondering whether we're not going to hear anything, and it's a bit worrying.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's very worrying with De Ligt because he was only supposed to be out for a single match. It was like a back twinge or something, we were told, and he was only going to be out for a match, then he'd be back, and now he's been out for the whole rest of the season. We don't know what the injury is, and when he comes back, we don't know how he's going to recover or if he will recover from that injury, because if it's that serious and he's out for that long, we know sometimes players don't come back the same. So obviously, like Ekitike has had that ruptured Achilles. He won't be back until next January, but when he does, it's the type of injury that will cause long-term damage and maybe will just impact him for the rest of his career. I might cut his career short because we don't know what the injury to De Ligt is. We don't know how or if he's going to come back. But again, I absolutely believe we need depth at centre back, actual depth that's actually available. You add to that a left back. I think we need a right back because I'm not sure Dalot or Mazraoui are it, if I'm totally honest with you. I was enjoying Mazraoui and now I'm a bit like, I'm not 100% and I'm not a Dalot fan. He's not for me. So I think we need a right back, at least one centre back, a left back, minimum 2 midfielders and a striker. So we do need more midfielders, but I don't trust our club to get those players. And I think if we don't get a left back, we could start next season without a left back. Because if Dorgu's on the wing and Shaw's injured, there's no left back. Obviously, we need the midfielders because Casemiro's going to be gone. So we need a midfielder. Ugarte needs to be gone. And as I said, one striker at Manchester United just isn't enough. So while I agree with Irish Pit Terrier there, 2 isn't enough. We need more than 2 to be able to improve and move forward, especially when we're going to be playing 2 games a week. I just don't trust the club to do it, which is my issue with the whole thing. We can have a shopping list as long as our arm. I don't think we're going to do it. And I do think we had a good summer last summer. But yet again, we wasted January, which is just complete nonsense. And even if we get another 3 to 4 good signings this summer, that's not enough. We've had so many injuries in a season where we're playing 1 game a week. Next season, we are going to have more injuries, which means we need to sign more players than we need. I don't even think we're going to sign what we need. I think we're probably looking at maximum 4 again. And so if you say 2 of them are a midfielder, like probably a centre back now, and then what?
That'd be if we only signed 4 players. I think if you look at last year, we signed 4 players. I think the expectation was we have a reduced number of games after we didn't qualify for any European competition, and we let a lot of players go that maybe went under the radar, like Ericsson and Evans, and our squad went down by bigger numbers than came in. And I think the understanding was that also the bomb squad guys that Rashford loaned out, Sancho gone, Garnacho, all these players went, and we only brought 4 signings in. I mean, Onana loaned out as well. So we seem to definitely reduce our squad, and it is pretty paper thin. Like Rob makes a good point saying we need 2 players to compete for every position. We have got no competition for the goalkeeping position, no competition for the striker. I do agree with your point with Dorgu that, I mean, Dorgu at Lecce did play left back a lot, right back a bit, left wing. And I think what we've seen is that as left wing back, I don't think it worked great. As an attacking player, I think Dorgu is being one of the most improved players in recent months before the injury. And I think he's got a continual goal threat, decent finishing, athleticism. I think he causes defenders problems. And it's a shame he's out. I mean, I'd say with Dorgu, just don't rush him back. Like the injuries, but he's got a lot of physicality. I'd say just let him recover slowly. And I think United are looking at, like, with the right back situation, I don't think Man United, because there's so many things to sort out, I think we're probably going to see the same. I was looking at Mazraoui and thinking, do you see Mazraoui as someone that maybe rightly or wrongly, I think Manchester United might be looking at him as someone that can be a bit like a Phil Neville or players in the past, John O'Shea, where it can play multiple positions. And they see him like a Clayton Blackmore from like the 90s as being like, he could be right back, could be left back. He's actually centre back recently. And I think maybe it's not ideal, but if you're going to make a compromise, I think I would compromise on left wing and right back. And then if we got a left back, we got a centre back, midfield, striker, I would think, okay, right, if I'm making a list of like 6 or 7 players, if we do the first 5 or 6, I would probably say, I mean, we should do more as a club. Mm-hmm. And one thing I would say is, when you talk about transfers and people say, like, they tell me I need to be realistic, we can only get a certain number of players. And my response is, how many players did Nottingham Forest buy that one season? They bought about 15. I'm not saying we should do that, but I think it's possible if you consider cheaper deals. Like if we're going to buy the players on screen. Of course, you don't buy 10 players that are going to cost Anderson money. No one does. But if you look at an Aiden Heaven deal, a couple of like academy deals, a couple of like cheaper deals, that if we start looking at the players that Brighton buy, the players that Bournemouth buy, there's options out there. And
Well,
they don't have to be first team players. They can be ones we know are in and around the squad, because no, this is the shortest season I've ever seen as a Man United fan. And getting knocked out by Grimsby and knocked out of the FA Cup, it's going to be very difficult. I'll go through some of the comments. There's a lot of good comments and questions as well. And saying Dorgu's like one of our most athletic players. I was actually genuinely impressed with Dorgu. Some of the I know the first few games he got criticism, but I remember one of the first couple of games he lost the ball, instantly winning it back. I think he adds an intensity to our team we didn't have before, and good value signing, I think.
Well, I didn't think much to him when he was at left back. And then as soon as he moved to left wing, I was like, oh, this is Dorgu. And I was like, boom. And it goes to show playing a player in the wrong position can make them just look not very good. He was a different player on the left wing. He was very good.
So Yarley's saying he's talking. Good to see you in the chat, Yarley. Good, said we're taking the Lit injury hard. One of your favourite players. I wanted him at the club before he left Juve. Have we got unlucky with De Ligt? Is like so I hate it when players. I know it sounds really bad when you look at players and go, right, we should move him on. He's injury prone. There is like an issue here where potentially we're talking about his career really in the balance, and I think it's unfortunate. I don't know what the situation is. Then
I think it's a bit of both, because anybody can be unlucky. Like Isak went to Liverpool, broke his leg. You don't know that's going to happen. Like a ruptured Achilles with Ekitike. He has been fantastic for Liverpool for the best part of the season. That's unlucky. You don't know what's going to happen. So unlucky things do happen. And I do think sometimes it can just be bad luck. However, we have a history at United of not doing the proper checks before we buy a player. When we bought Rasmus Højlund, he had a back injury. He was injured. His back was injured literally when we bought him. We have bought a number of players. We bought Mason Mount knowing he was injured. So while I think it's possible to get unlucky, and De Ligt hasn't had an injury like this before, or anything that would indicate he would get an injury like this before, so it could be down to bad luck. However, I do think we also have a problem with, we often seem to buy players with injuries, and that's where you start to maybe get into the conspiracy sort of theory, and you're like, oh, it's all the club. In specifically De Ligt's case, I think it might be bad luck, because I've gone through his injury history. There was nothing there to indicate something like this would happen. And obviously it wasn't there when we bought him, because he played so many times before it happened. So I think specifically in De Ligt's case, it's bad luck. There was no indicators at all, and you can't see into the future. However, I think in a general sense, Manchester United, more often than not, aren't unlucky. We buy injured players knowing they're injured, and that's just a stupid thing to do. So I think sometimes we make our own bad luck as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was going to say, I think the Sandro Martinez was like an unlucky one as well, but unlucky, quite serious injuries.
Yeah,
that one.
I think the first one is unlucky. I think the second one you're going, oh no. And then obviously his surgery was a bit botched and had to be redone. And then that's kind of us. And then it's, it starts to not become bad luck anymore. It starts to become bad management, bad dealing with the situation. And I agree with you. I very much like Martinez's personality. However, there's injury after injury after injury after injury. And I also thought he took too long to come back after the last international tournament, the one that they won. He was celebrating. I think it was under Ten Hag at that time. I'm sure it was. They all stayed to celebrate. And then he stayed some more. And we were really under the cosh. Erik Ten Hag's job was literally on the line. We needed him. And he was still just off drinking and celebrating. And I'm not saying don't celebrate, but it has to be proportionate. We were still in the middle of a season. Celebrate and then come back and do your job. And I didn't like that. I'll be honest. I thought he took the pizzazz a little bit. I thought he could have come back a few days earlier than he did. I didn't like that. So if I add that to all of the sort of injuries, he's not, I like his personality. I wanted to like him. He feels like a United player. But for me, I just don't. For me, it's not For me,
I
it's
think it's
not. He
like a
needs to,
balanced thing, isn't it? There's different
yeah.
factors. Like everybody watching, myself and you, will have different opinions on different players, and you kind of, when someone puts you on the spot, like they say to me, say, right, who do you want to sell?
Hmm.
I sometimes I just go, right, this is what I honestly think. I honestly
Yeah.
think that this player should be moved on for these reasons. And one of the things that I think I mentioned it on your channel earlier, and one of the things that I have been trying to, like, I'm quite a positive person generally, which was
Yeah.
a struggle last season with what was
Yeah.
happening. So I was kind of looking, but last season I kind of focused on the future and thought, actually, where's the club going to go? And one of the things that's comment on screen is Manchester United have maybe taken a different strategy with some signings. Like Roscoe was somebody that I talked about a while ago. I don't know loads about him, I'll be honest. And then we got Leon as well as another cheaper signing. And these are players that Manchester United have maybe the scouts have gone on a bit, a bit further afield. They've been looking in South America. They've been trying to unearth like some quality talent that maybe in the past we've overlooked South America a little bit. And it's something that does seem to be that even though there's like short-term issues in the squad, that maybe in the future Man United are actually looking at trying to do the same sort of thing that well-run clubs like Brighton and Bournemouth and Brentford that have a more limited budget, they do seem to sign a lot of top quality younger players that then a few years later we're paying a huge price for them, or they're trying to charge a huge price for them. We maybe not meeting the believer valuation, and they tried to like sting us for the striker whose name I keep forgetting that was quite suffering from injury issues. Like a Roscoe, Leon, do you look at this in terms of like positivity that these are quite cheap signings? I think a Roscoe was about 10 million. I'm not sure if that's pounds or euros. Leon was about 5 or 6.
Mm.
That they are actually, it looks like they're planning for the future, something that when we signed Casemiro and Varane was clearly short-term signing, but it looks like we're trying to look a bit more long-term in terms of building up the club.
Hmm. I'll be honest, I don't know anything about Orozco. Obviously, I've heard people talk about him since we've signed him, etc., etc. When they're that young, I'm not going to pretend like I'm not watching like the leagues that they're in. So I'm not going to pretend I know about them when I don't, because I just don't. And while I think it's good that we're future planning, and I think a lot of what they're doing is they're bringing them in at an age that they will become homegrown. So by the time they come to the first team, they're homegrown players. So I think that's why they're doing it. That's why they're trying to get them this early. And I'm sure, it's all very nice, but I have two concerns with it. First of all, we are not good at developing young players. So we might be taking a diamond and turning it into a stone by leaving them at Manchester United.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
second thing is, it's all well and good planning for the future. What about now? What about now though? Like, that's in the nicest way. That's absolutely no good to us now. If he's not going to play next season, that's no good to us now. It's very good we're thinking for the future. However, we absolutely need to plan for the present. You can't just, and I think sometimes they try and distract us. I think sometimes they go, look at this shiny new toy. Look at this lovely new youth player. And the youth player, Orozco, might be incredibly talented. He might be a sensation in the future. He's not going to help us in the Champions League next season. So while I think it's lovely, a lot of the time I just think, okay, what about now though? Who are we signing? Like, and I think they use it as a distraction. I also want to give it a nice shout out there. I saw that you have Neil O'Driscoll in here, who I haven't seen in ages. I'm seeing loads of lovely familiar faces in your chat. I saw Foxy there as well, obviously, but I saw Neil Driscoll. Lovely to see him. You've got a good old crowd in yours. You've a great
There's a
crowd
lot
in
of
your
people
chat.
that I think people that are new probably don't realize that we had been going for like 5 years. Neil's been like, I've known him for like at least 4 or 5 years, and yeah, he was on last night when we did a bit of a calling show
Oh,
to discuss things.
lovely. I haven't seen Neil in ages. He would have been on a channel that the first time I was ever on YouTube, it was like that, a call-in show on another channel. And Neil was there. He was on that channel. So big up to Neil. I'm seeing loads of familiar faces today. It's lovely. And I see Titanium asking, how often do I stream? I stream twice a day, every day, 12 and 7. Days and times, 12 and 7, every day, for the most part, unless it's my birthday and I take a day off. But
Yeah.
I
I'm going to
also,
throw a question to you, Cake. Sorry, not Cake, Lou, because I know this person as well, Cake. I've known him for a few years. He
mhm.
does have very different opinions from me, which is great because I do invite conversation. And he was saying that in his opinion, he wants to get Tonali and Anderson, which I agree with. The top quality players. he wants to get rid of Bruno and get rid of Mainoo.
Mhm.
And I don't think that's going to happen. But do you see the argument that there is a social media argument, and a lot of people don't like. There's been a bit of negativity towards Bruno and Mainoo over the year. I
Mhm.
mean, particularly when at the start of the season, Mainoo's not on the team. The manager says he's not on the team for certain reasons. Bruno gets criticised for some things. I mean, I might be a bit biased. Quite a big Bruno fan. I do like what he does. Do you look at this and think, like, are you happy with Bruno Fernandes staying for the foreseeable future? And Kobe Mainoo
I'm
as
so
well.
glad
He's
you
had a
said that
difficult
you
one.
invite different opinions before you gave yours. I personally, I think Mainoo is overrated massively. I think he's a decent player. I think he's a good squad option. I don't think he's a starter for Manchester United, match in, match out. I didn't like the way his brother behaved. I didn't like that he condoned how his brother behaved. We gave out about Rashford's brother. We gave out about Garnacho's brother. We talk about Sancho. We talk about the bomb squad. We talk about bad attitude. We talk about putting things out in like social media out into the public. And at the end of the day, his brother was actually a contestant on Love Island. His brother is a wannabe sort of influencer, grab attention type of person. And I thought, okay, well, maybe Manny didn't know about it. Maybe the brother's gone out on his own and done it for attention. But then he sort of condoned it. And he certainly didn't come out and say, I didn't approve of that. I've spoken to my brother. It won't happen again. You know, the whole t-shirt incident. So for me, I think he's overrated in terms of his talent. I think he's decent. I'm not saying he's terrible. I think he's decent. I don't think he's world class. For me, he's not world class. He's decent. And I didn't like the dramatics of it. And I don't understand why we gave out about Rashford and his brother and Garnacho and his brother and Sancho and his attitude, but it was okay for Mainoo's brother. It was okay for Mainoo. And his sister came out saying stuff as well, which nobody really talked about, but his sister came out with some posts as well. She didn't do a t-shirt, but she was talking on social media. And he seemed to endorse this. So for me, I would happily sell Kobbie Mainoo. I don't think he's the right attitude. And I think he wants to start every week, and I don't think we should be offering him that. In terms of Bruno's a complicated one for me. So when we first got Bruno, I absolutely loved him. I loved him. What he did was revolutionary. He did so much. He was just fantastic. And then I felt he dropped off a bit. I felt like he started to feed into his own hype a little bit. I think the Manchester United effect started to creep in, where we make every player worse. I think when he was given the captain's armband, for me, he's not my cup of tea as a captain. I don't like the dramatic arm waving, whiny stuff, but that's a personal opinion. That's a subjective thing that I personally don't enjoy. And I think I often say to people, when we took the captaincy off Harry Maguire, it was the best thing that ever could have happened to him, because I think he became so much better when we took the captaincy off him. And I think with Bruno, I try and separate it, Bruno the captain and Bruno the player. For me, he's not necessarily, I think, captain material, although I've seen a little bit more recently, a bit more leadership. But I personally, he wouldn't have been my pick, although we didn't have a lot of options. In terms of as a player, I feel from he was moved into midfield kind of consistently this season and then moved back into his position as a 10, I feel like we've seen a bit of a renaissance from Bruno. So I think he was absolutely fantastic. And then I felt like his level sort of dropped a little bit. And now I feel like in the latter end of this season, I actually feel like we're starting to see the best of Bruno again. So if you had asked me last summer, I would have said sell him. Right now, this minute, they were offering 100 million, sell him, take the money and run, buy 2 or 3 players for that. This season, this summer, I actually feel a bit differently. I would probably keep him because I think he has had a resurgence. I think he's coming full circle. So I've had a complicated relationship with Bruno. I would sell Kobbie. I see people disagreeing with me in the comments. That's
A-okay,
because
I probably
it's
disagree with a
all
lot of what you're
subjective.
saying, but it's about opinions and views, isn't it? I think
Yeah.
when I was talking about Bruno, I know people look at Bruno, etc., in different ways. And to be honest, over the last 3 years at least, every single match we've discussed, everybody has a different opinion on Bruno. I think Bruno is a good leader. I know that the body language people don't like, but when you look at Bruno Fernandes instructing players on the pitch, I think with some of the younger players, you can see him coaching a little bit, offering advice, and I think the assist, the range of passing Bruno's got is phenomenal. I think when Bruno was struggling at the start of the season, I could say Casemiro was struggling. I could say Man United was struggling. We had quite a bad setup. That's my opinion. I think with Mainoo, that Mainoo didn't play for most of the season. He wasn't starting games, and I think Mainoo's like one where he's just turned 21. I wouldn't be saying like I think who's world class at that age. Very few people. I think Mainoo's a good player, and I think sometimes it's like there's extreme opinions where I think Mainoo's a good player. You see, he's got some like very good attributes. Somebody made a comment on this morning stream saying he'd like to see an extended range of passing from Mainoo, which I think is a fair point. That I think with Mainoo, it's about how he develops over the next few years. And Man United has been a bit of a weirdly run club the last couple of years where Garnacho and Mainoo both came through the academy. In my mind, they played more games than they should have, and it's not ideal. And I think that one thing that might be interesting is the players on screen. It's going to be so interesting to actually compare. If we did get, I'd love us to get Anderson, and then we can have a conversation, can't we? Put Anderson and Mainoo both in Manchester United. We might see, some games Mainoo starts, some games Anderson starts, and it's quite difficult sometimes to look at what's the best player in Forest. It's probably Anderson, and I think there's definitely with United. If we sold Mainoo, I don't know what the value would be getting at. I think at this point in time, I don't think Man United would be selling him, and I think with Bruno. I don't know if you sold, if say for example, if Man United sold Bruno, who would you replace him with at the moment? Because that's when we talked about it last year. The idea was that if an insane amount of money came in, and we're talking like Saudi offering crazy money, if that came in, you could look at it and go, actually, there's a few. There's a few options out there. I think Yildiz was someone that people loved, but I was thinking if you don't get a lot of money for him, it's going to be quite difficult.
Well, there's two things. I don't think you would sell Bruno for not a lot of money. So I don't think that's a scenario that we see. If it's not a lot of money, we don't sell him. So I don't think that scenario exists. If we sell him, it would be for a lot of money. And also, I don't really believe that you can just replace a player. So like obviously people are talking about, how do Liverpool replace Mo Salah? We spoke earlier about how do City replace Bernardo Silva? How do we replace Casemiro? I don't think you can. I don't think these type of players can just be replaced. I don't think you can replace Bruno Fernandes. And I think that's where a lot of teams go wrong, where they try and like for like replace. You can't sometimes. Sometimes you have to, okay, this is the next kind of development. This is the next version of the team. You can't, and that's it.
Yeah.
You can't replace Bruno. You can't replace Casemiro. You have to evolve the team in a new way. Like Steph there is saying no one is irreplaceable. I agree and I disagree. I don't think anyone is irreplaceable in that you can't, like the team will definitely drop off if you lose that player. I do think that some players are irreplaceable in that you can't directly find someone who's going to slot in and do exactly what they've been doing and have the same traits and all of the same sort of, do you know those little cards and they have the stats on them and like you get a rating for speed and a rating for accuracy? Like no two players would ever have the exact same. So I don't think anyone is replaceable like for like, but I agree nobody's irreplaceable in what they bring to the team. What they bring to the team can be replaced. The player themselves sometimes can't be replaced directly. So I think it's a little bit of both. Like Neil is correct there. We still haven't replaced Roy Keane. Yeah. We still haven't replaced Roy Keane. He's still not replaced.
There's no Roy Keane there. Do you know what I was going to say? I was going to say, Lou, that's the perfect answer, I think, like in my view, because Manchester United, you never replace, like you never get another Cantona, you never get another Roy Keane. We never replaced a striker like Van Nistelrooy. We've never had someone like Van Nistelrooy that sort of level of finishing. And we're never going to replace Cristiano Ronaldo. We're never going to be replacing Ronaldo. Like we will say, physically you replace them in the team because you've got different players in there, but every player is different. And with Bruno Fernandes, you've got a skill set which is just unique. Like you're never going to get, like Arsenal never managed to replace Thierry Henry or Vieira. And I think with Manchester United, it's almost like you're looking at what does Casemiro plus Mainoo give you in the team? you're going to replace those players with two. But it's a natural evolution, isn't it? Every team's going to have to evolve and try and look at where this team's going. And my best guess is like with the estimation of next season, probably Bruno Fernandes stays, probably Mainoo stays, I'm guessing. But if we sold Mainoo, how much would you take for him, just out of interest?
Now, there's a good question. I would want a decent chunk of money, to be fair, because as I said, and I see some people getting quite agitated in the chat, like I Am Titanium is saying people can't wait to bring Cobby down. It's not like a Cobby Mainoo conspiracy. People are allowed to have an opinion. It's not about everybody sitting waiting to get Cobby Mainoo. I don't sit at home and go, oh, I can't wait to bring Cobby down. It's just a different opinion.
He's 21 years old.
Sometimes people get very offended by somebody having a different opinion than them. If I Am Titanium here would love to keep Cobby Mainoo and build a team around him, that's a-okay. That's entirely your opinion. But it's not an agenda. I think agenda is one of the most overused words on social media at the minute. People are allowed to have a different opinion. Not everything is an agenda. Not everybody is waiting to bring somebody down. Sometimes it's just an opinion. Sometimes people just aren't your cup of tea. So, for example, some of your chatters might be like, what is this girl doing on this channel? Rich, please never bring her on again. She's not my cup of tea. She's a bit loud. She's a bit opinionated. She's a bit...
No, some people might think like bring her back because they don't like my opinion, which is different. It's like, no, you
I think
win
you're all right. In terms of Cobby Mainoo, I'm just trying to think what would be a fair price, because at the end of the day, I don't feel that we should be building a team around him, but I do think he's a talented player. And I think sometimes it's just not the right fit. I think sometimes it can be a good player and a good team and it doesn't fit. I think sometimes it can be a good manager and a good team and it doesn't fit. Sometimes it's not that one of the things are bad. It's the combination doesn't really work. That sometimes is it. With Cobby Mainoo, I think he could go to another team and really, really flourish. I think he has talent. Obviously, he's involved with England now. Obviously, he was a first teamer for quite an extended period and is back to being a first teamer for Manchester United. Midfielders are hard to, like, there's a lot of people talking about midfielders at the minute. I would suggest that Mainoo, and this might surprise people, I think Mainoo's better than Baleba. I don't want Baleba because I don't think he's good enough and I don't think his attitude is good enough. I think Mainoo is better than him. Do you know what I mean? It's not a case of this one's bad. It's kind of a scale, if you get me.
Because my guess is going to be...
I would probably want... Yeah. If I had to put a number, I would probably want 60 to 70, which is probably going to sound quite high for a player I don't think is what we need. But I think the problem is the prices for all of the players are going up. Like, they want over 100 million for Elliot Anderson. They want to break records. Yeah. Like, Isak was 100 and whatever. So I think as the prices go up, some of them sound crazy when actually they're more just in line with the market. So I would probably want 60 to 70. If they wanted 100 million for Baleba, and I think he's better than him. So I'm probably looking at 60 to 70 for Mainoo, if I'm honest with you. And I wouldn't take diddly price. Like, if somebody offered me 40, I'd just keep him. Do you know that way? I wouldn't sell him for peanuts.
I was thinking with this one that when we had the transfer window, I'll wrap up quite soon. Just let me know in the chat, Lou, if you need to head off really quickly, because it's coming up towards an hour. I was going to say that when we're looking at the conversation, is how much are Man United going to have to pay for these players? And like TONALI, if they want 100, Anderson, they want 100, Baleba, they want something like that. I've seen 70, 80 plus, maybe more for Wharton. And I was thinking, Alex Scott, playing well for Bournemouth, they want 65. And they're looking at that sort of price. And I was thinking, if Gomez, Angela Stiller about 40, and I was saying, like, Mainoo's played international football for England. He was one of actually England's better players a couple of years ago as well. I think United at this point in time, someone would have to put in serious money to entertain a sale. And I would be looking at, I don't think anyone's going to do that. And I think United, they keep him because I think 20, just turning 21, it's really difficult to guess how he's going to develop over the next 3 or 4 years. And I would be thinking, I don't know, Man United have been stung in the past a bit by moving players on. And then, I mean, when we look at, if we got 40 for Garnacho, I'd be wanting like, I don't know, at least 30 more for Mainoo. I think he's a lot better player and we'll put the effort in to improve. But we're going to have to probably wrap up quite soon. It's an hour. Any final sort of thoughts you want to put out there, Lou? Also, link to Lee's channel in the description as well, in the title.
Well, first of all, big up to everybody in the chat. It's great to see everybody getting so involved. And it obviously helps us, when we're having our conversation, when the chat gets so involved and, the different viewpoints. And it's something that I really encourage on my channel. And I see Titanium desperately telling me, no, not you, the chat. It was just people in general. And
no one will agree.
You'll find that I bring that into my channel and my chat all the time when people have different opinions. Like we have JT on there who's an Arsenal fan, and JT loves to play devil's advocate. And I think it's quite important because sometimes, if me and you agreed and then you're not getting the other point of view. So I think it's very important when the chat does bring in those other points of view. I think, it really adds to the show. And obviously, of course, thank you to you for hosting me and for being the first Manchester United fan on my channel. The guys know I don't often collaborate because I'm only building and I'm sort of establishing my own. But I thought it was a great opportunity to have an actual, relatively level-headed Manchester United fan on my channel. But I suppose what I would leave it with is we have, I believe, exceeded where we should be at the moment, given the squad that we have, given the manager situation with both Amram and now with Carrick. I think we need to do a lot in the window. I think we need to do a lot next season. I think we need to use January as well, instead of just ignoring it every year. And I'm probably going to leave it on a bit of a bombshell because we haven't discussed this at all. And I do have to go because I have 2 little disabled cats. Yeah. And so I can't leave them on their own for too long. So I will have to shoot, but I'm going to leave you the bombshell. I don't think Carrick is the guy. And I've said this, I've actually done a whole stream on why I don't think he's the guy. I wouldn't keep him. And I think we're going to drag out the summer, whether you want him or don't want him. I think our ownership and our board is going to drag out the summer, going through this manager cycle before they eventually come to the decision, which I think is they'll keep Carrick. And I think they're going to waste all that time on managers and not do anything on transfers. So whether we think we need 7 or 8 players and a top-notch manager or not, I don't think they're going to. I think they're going to use it as a time-wasting exercise to avoid buying players early, which, as multiple people said in the chat, is actually what we need to be doing. Sort the manager situation out now and work on the players as soon as the window opens. They're not going to. They're going to use it as a time-wasting exercise, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And just to conclude, what I might do, I'll stay on a bit and take some final questions. I know Lou needs to head off. I think you made a great point, Lou. All the players we're talking about and all the transfers we're talking about, we need to actually let these players know who the head coach is going to be, because that might be influencing their decision as well. It's a really important point.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for having me. I will talk to you soon. And big up to your chat. Pleasure. They're all fantastic. See you soon.
Thanks, Lou. Ryan says, football would be boring if we all agreed. Yeah, luckily no one agrees on a lot of things. So let's open up the floor for questions. I can jump in the comments a bit more and see what people are thinking. Please check out Lou's channel as well. Really good content. I was there an hour ago discussing, and yeah, we're going to be disagreeing on a few things. I will have different views, but that's absolutely fine. I think this is a thing of opinion. Berber says, unless someone offers silly money, I think there's one of the things that we do look at is there's more than one problem, isn't there? There's more than one problem at Manchester United. How many can you sort out in one window? There's quite a few different things you need to address. I think most people were looking at and saying, if you listed Manchester United's top 10 problems, I think probably 2 or 3 of them are going to be midfield options. And they're going to be, which players are we going to be able to get in? Which players are we going to try and buy to build around? And I think Manchester United already, we have to sell. Now we're looking at closing deals for Rasmus, for Rashford, for maybe Xerxes, maybe Agate, definitely Anana. And I think if you've got a situation where you're looking at moving all these players on, then I don't think United can be selling any of the players that are around the first team anytime soon. Big up to you, Gaz, as well. For people that have tuned in recently for the first time, welcome to the community, and absolute pleasure to get more fans involved as well. And Mama Flossie, I've seen Mama Flossie a few times as well. Good to get Newcastle fans. I have got a few moderators actually that don't all support Manchester United, so we do try and get a range of views with this one. It says nothing against people wanting Koyu out. Everyone's gonna have a different view, aren't they? It's like if I said to people like pick one player on the screen, there would definitely be there'll probably be a lot of people trending towards Anderson. But if you take Anderson out of the mix, I know people that look at Wharton as a good signing. They look at TONALI as a very good signing, and I think Belieber, people will change their opinion on Belieber depending on what the price is going to be. I say selling Xerxes, keeping Mainoo. I think if you look at this, does Xerxes actually play many games for Manchester United? He's not in and around the first team, and it seems that Xerxes wants to move. That's what I'm saying. I think that agendas aside, people's opinions aside, Xerxes looks like a player that isn't going to get many games. Welcome, Jeff. Good to see you in the chat. But I think like niche fan, like you're welcome to your view. The thing is, if you look at it under Michael Carrick, and if potentially Carrick staying next season or a new head coach is coming in, if they're looking to move players on, why would they keep Xerxes? Would they keep like Agati? I don't think would stay. And I think Xerxes was angling for a return. That's what my understanding was in the situation. Welcome, Elliot, to the chat as well. Good to see you. Gary says, no believer, no matter what. Gather's saying Xerxes a squad. I think Xerxes, but Xerxes got some attributes, and I think when you bring Xerxes on towards the end of a match, he's someone that can like progress the ball. He's someone that's like quite comfortable in possession. But I think if you're looking at an attacking player from Manchester United, then you've got to carry more goal threat. Like you're looking at the position he's playing in. I think Xerxes got to carry more goal threat, and it's something we haven't seen from him. And I think it's maybe like a 2-year rule that Xerxes has been here for a couple of years. I'm not sure if Man United are going to be looking at keeping these players too much longer. Just as Anderson top notch, but we're not getting him. So to go back to the kind of lead story that Manchester City heavily linked to Anderson. That's what we've been talking about over the last few weeks. People are looking at that as being true. Also look at this and go Sandro Tonali. That would he want to return to Italy? His price tag is going to be potentially 100 million. That's a lot for Serie A teams. That when we looked at potentially trying to sell Garnacho to Serie A teams, it is a lot of money. That it might be that Tonali does favour a move, but Newcastle they want to get a very big price. It's going to be quite difficult. And if you look at Manchester United, apparently Manchester United are kind of in the lead regarding Tonali. That's what media sources are putting out there. But say also Manchester City interested in Tonali. Is there any chance that this is like for me, Manchester City? I know Tonali's like not old, but I would say for Manchester City, they would tend to go for like a younger player if there's a few options on the table. I think Anderson feels very much like a Manchester City signing. And I think that if you're looking at Tonali, they're not going to be able to get both of them. That would be crazy. Jeff says Tonali blows our budget, as does Wharton. Looks like Belieber would. Scott from Bournemouth, I quite like. I think Scott from Bournemouth is actually maybe emerging as one of those players that could be that the price could be a bit more negotiable as well. You might be looking at lowering the price a little bit and getting Scott and Angela Stiller instead of Tonali could be quite good business. I do think there's definitely some scope that when you're looking at it, it feels like Manchester United want to go big and they want to go for like a statement signing. So that's why I had this screen up saying that these are potentially, I would say you could lower the price on Bleeb a little bit, but these are potentially the most expensive options out there in terms of Premier League options. And it'd be maybe what I'll have to do at some point. I'll have to get a bigger slide and maybe put a few other options on there, like put Gomez on there, put Alex Scott on there, and say, look, there is actually a few options now. And if Manchester City seriously go for one of them, there's still a lot of good options there to look at. I say, is it fair to say if we need 5 signings, if you get rid of Kobe, that's 6 signings? I mean, if you sell Kobe, Manchester United going to be able to get the best possible price? I don't know. So Mainoo does have a good finish on him. Doesn't get many opportunities with Bruno hogging the limelight. It's the way Man United are playing at the moment. Then Mainoo's job is very much a bit deeper alongside Casemiro. Bruno Fernandes is going to be pulling the strings. I think you need to look at it and say that what do people want Mainoo to do? Like if Mainoo's in Manchester United's team, like what role do they want him to have? And at the age of 21, just turning 21, are we able to assess like what is the potential of Kobe Mainoo? Are we able to make a judgment call on how he's going to develop in a few years' time? That I think there's a lot of football to be played in Mainoo's career. I think there's a lot of potential development he could be. Gaz says like based on current form, Belieber say yeah. The thing is, I think the Belieber deal is difficult because I don't that how much I think Belieber should cost. I don't think Brighton agree with that. I think Brighton want a higher price. It's the same as like Mark Gahey at Crystal Palace. They just wanted too much money, and then in the end, with Adam Wharton, I'm just wondering whether the contract with him and the fact is that highly rated at the moment. Is there any part of Crystal Palace where they think we actually need to, if a decent offer comes in, they tried to get too much. They got a bit greedy with Mark Gahey, and in the end, they only got 20, but they could have easily got 60, 65. They tried to get 75 from Newcastle. I think there was a bit of greed there. So our backline needs so much help, says Gregory. It does. Like our backline needs it probably needs someone that's that kind of experienced centre back that probably is going to do the role that we thought De Ligt and Lisandro Martinez were going to do over the season. And so you're saying that Mainoo needs time. I think Mainoo needs time. The only stories I've seen about Mainoo recently are that he'll be getting a new contract at some point in time. So I don't think there's going to be much other stories apart from that. And fans saying Gahey's Semenyo deals change the title narrative. Yeah, maybe also we're looking at a situation now where Champions League football is almost done. It's almost in the bag, isn't it? Champions League football. Then the difference is going to be that if we'd have made a couple of signings in January, we would probably be wrapped up completely by now. Two new fullbacks and I don't know if we're going to get two, Stephanie. It might be a bit ambitious. I think United are going to look. It depends. If anyone leaves, there's no way that De Ligt leaves the club, is there? In my view, I don't think De Ligt leaves the club. He's been injured. There's no expected return time. I'm not sure whether there are sometimes links with Lisandro Martinez in terms of players, teams interested in him. Well, would people be accepting that? Would people look at it and go, Lisandro Martinez, move him out, etc.? So Mainoo needs a strong partner. Contract could be an issue. So I think the agents. I think with this one that I don't think Mainoo is going to get close to 200k. Like Manchester United got Semenyo. No, sorry, they got Mark. They got Cunha and Buemo, Sesko on lower. The contract situation. I think people were there was like rumors that was what was wanted by his agent months ago. But Manchester United, you have to say at the time, Manchester United handed out crazy contracts for Mount, huge contracts for Rashford, Sancho, Casemiro. So no, he's not going to get that sort of contract. I don't think. I'm not sure what he's going to get. We'll have to like. There's no actual knowledge of what contract he's going to get. Okay, so the 200k is a huge number. I would very much doubt he's going to get that sort of number, but we'll have to see. He's only just turned 21. So yeah, there's going to be a difference of opinion on that one, isn't it? But if anyone's got some comments and questions, we'll stay live for about another 15 minutes to discuss midfield options. If you're new to the channel, please get involved in this one. So Mainoo will quadruple his wages to the 100k range. I believe like Yoro is Yoro getting 110, 120? So if you're looking at a player that's like, Mainoo was on a very low contract to start with. And I think we saw Dorgu came in on a very low contract, about 30 to 40k. If you're looking at this situation, I think Mainoo will he'll get obviously a big improvement, but I think you might be looking at the sort of Euro contract as a benchmark of someone that's got a few years experience, that sort of situation. And I think Mbeumo, Cunha, Sesko, if you look at the Mainoo situation, if you give him a contract in line with Euro, Champions League football is going to trigger increases to everybody as well. So everybody's going to get a pay rise by getting Champions League football. So I think that there's definitely a deal to be done there, and it won't be it's not going to be something astronomical. But I think it's no, really, as long as it's getting parity with as long as I think the pay situation at United is going in the right direction. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Welcome, yeah, cheers, Stephanie. Appreciate that. I'll be setting up tonight. I'm not 100% sure what time. It might be like 7, might be 8. I'll try and get a standardized time, but like 9 a.m., 1 p.m. could be like standard times for the future. Was there? I don't know what the. I don't. As far as I can see with Mainoo, there is literally no story. We're just talking about midfield options. Do we need fullbacks or wingbacks who can bomb forward like Dorgu? Given how we're going to play under Carrick, if he's in charge next season, or if we're looking at getting other managers, I think the wingbacks is something that we only discussed about because of the situation regarding Ruben Amorim. I think wingbacks we'll be looking at. I guess with fullbacks, you could say that they might be required to attack, but we'll be looking for fullbacks primarily. I'm not sure at the moment. I'm guessing my best guess is that Manchester United don't have a lot of money for the left back situation. So they were looking at trying to sign, if you remember, they're trying to sign the left back from Sheffield Wednesday that ultimately Chelsea got. So we have been looking, but maybe people are talking about Harry and Mass, possibly a younger signing as well. It feels like we're looking for like Luke Shaw's replacement, but a long-term replacement. I think the money, if I was looking at the defense, I would probably say at this point in time, it might be that we go for a centre back because of the Lit injury situation. I think that might change this transfer strategy a little bit. Otherwise, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Say 7 or 7:30. Yeah, Crystal Palace, West Ham. I don't worry too much about that one. Amit's welcome to the chat. Says fans have decided Anderson is better than Belieber. Mainoo is average, and Maguire deserves to start over Heaven. I think Maguire needs to start alongside Heaven, as my view. That I think with Maguire plus Heaven is a centre back partnership. Now, Heaven looks very good, but Heaven's played 20 games, so he having some experience alongside him in those games would be really, really good. Like, so that would be something I'd look at. Just until he's ready. And I don't really mind having Maguire alongside Yoro either. If Manchester United signed a centre back like Murillo, or they signed another centre back like Van Heck, you could look at him and go, yeah, put him alongside Aiden Heaven. I would be happy with that. I think with Anderson better than Belieber, they are different players, aren't they? And they're having different seasons. I think the fans were massively in favour of Belieber. I think that I don't think we've seen the last of Belieber as a good player. I think we've seen a bad season or a disappointing season. I think what we've seen also is that Anderson has had a very good season, but 20, 21-year-olds, they will have ups and downs. I think it's Manchester United fundamentally, I think as a club, I think they value Belieber still. I just don't think they value him to the extent that the price that Brighton wanted wasn't really feasible. It was just a bit too expensive. Yeah, fans. I think Anderson is. I think Anderson's a good option. And to be honest, like the players on screen, if Man United signed Belieber plus another couple of midfielders, I think we still have to look at it and go, right, let's have an open mind and see how that works. If I was going to pick one player, I think the thing that I like about Anderson is how he protects the defense, how he actually wins the ball back, how he yeah. I think he's just at the moment, he's just playing really well. He would maybe be someone that you think the amount of ground he covers, the defensive actions he's got, would fit in line with like Man United trying to get like a lot more athleticism into the team. That would be something positive. You're welcome, Gregory. All comments are like absolutely welcome. No one knows 100% what's going to happen. It's all it's all something like we're trying to look at the news and trying to discuss what would be better. Like for example, like Bruno Fernandes. Did Bruno Fernandes play badly last season, or was Bruno Fernandes just did he have teammates that weren't able to convert chances? It's always going to be subjective, isn't it? That I think we've got Cunha and Buemo, Sesko, who will finish more chances, and we've got Bruno getting a record season at the moment, like 18 assists so far. It's a different level we're seeing. and we didn't see it last season, but we saw Bruno creating chances and we didn't see people finishing it. So I think there's always going to be like reasons and opinions. So like I will say, if Spurs get relegated, can we get Mickey van der Ven? It might very much depend on how much they want for Van der Ven. But I saw a story this morning that we were linked to Romero, and my first reaction was, for Romero is a bit of a walking red card. I'm honestly a bit surprised that I'm surprised we're linked to too many Spurs players, because I'm looking at, if you want people to fight under adversity, Spurs might not be the best hunting ground. That Spurs seems to be a club that the players are. I'm not going to say they're downing tools, but they've been very error prone most of the season. They have been pretty average, pretty poor in a lot of games. And I would be looking at West Ham players above Spurs players. I think West Ham have got a couple of quality players that would definitely, if West Ham got relegated, there's definitely 3 or 4 players I think can go to a much better team. If Spurs got relegated, I mean, if they generally want, how much money do they want for Van der Ven? Like, how much does he want? He's very pacey. I'm a bit concerned that sometimes I'm a bit concerned that sometimes when I watch Spurs, I've caught them on bad games. I think I might have watched Van der Ven when he's actually made a few defensive errors. I think the scrutiny at United would be off the charts. Unfortunately, with this one, I think Spurs want too much money for him, Jeff. In all honesty, I think Spurs want too much money, and I think that they want a price that's not worth going for. So I would say if you're looking at Van Heck at Brighton and you're looking at Murillo at Forest, when you start spending big money, yeah, I think it's tricky. So reported, it's an interesting one. Reported gentleman's agreement could allow a summer exit for a fee around 60-65 if Crystal Palace miss out on Champions League football. Recent reports suggest Palace will push for, so that's that price for Wharton. So yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I think in terms of centre back options, it's like Romero, Van der Ven are pushed out as being options. Murillo's been pushed out as an option. Van Heck's been pushed out as an option for other reasons as well. Senesi at Bournemouth has been pushed out as an option because potentially he's free. This is interesting. If the price for like 65 million for Adam Wharton, that puts him in like if you look at Adam Wharton and you look at Alex Scott, potentially Alex Scott has a price of 60-65 that Bournemouth want, but everybody thinks that price could come down. That for me would be like a very good price. Like Adam Wharton, I do like his range of passing. That would make a very convincing argument. Can you imagine if you got, like, say, Wharton plus Angelo Stillo, maybe similar players, Alex Scott potentially, like on the defensive end. When I said about how much we're going to spend on midfield, then that for me is like a good price. Like when people talk about Wharton of being like 70, 80, that's quite a lot. That's a lot, isn't it? Gravy says, I thought we'd lost out to Wharton to Liverpool. Well, I suppose there's a lot of links there. Do you remember that everybody thought that Mark Gahey was going to go to Liverpool? No one even knows who's going to be in charge of Liverpool next season. We're finishing above Liverpool, hopefully. No, I think with this one, with Wharton, then that could be, no, honestly, that could be an interesting one. That's the price that would be potentially, if you're looking at the players on screen, that would probably put him in a price it's almost like price to sell, isn't it? That for me feels a bit more sense. The only reason I could think of that happening would be if Crystal Palace changed their strategy because of how much money they lost on Mark Gahey. And Gahey could have gone for, say, how much did Newcastle offer for Gahey? They turned down a massive offer. They wanted 75, and Newcastle said no. And then he went for 20, like 6 months later. Like that's crazy. Like they lost probably like 40 million they could have got. Or actually, maybe like it might have been they could have got 60 or just over 60. So if they want to get 80 for Wharton, then they might be worth putting him at 60, 65, getting that deal done. as opposed to letting Wharton just stay at the club and maybe potentially being less value in the future. But that's an interesting one. 60, 65 million. I would be all over that. 60 million, I think it's a bit like Alex Scott plus Wharton for just over 100, like 110 for the both of them. I think that would be good. Angela Stiller, you could look at potentially as an option there. Big up, Jeff. Good to catch up. Good to catch up yesterday as well. Yeah, I think with this, there's not going to be particularly a problem with these options, is there? The only problem might be with Manchester United is I'm kind of agreeing with my guest earlier that it could be an issue that United need to resolve the head coach situation and then look at trying to. Now we need to actually resolve that situation, then look at which player we really want and think, now which one could we go for? If in terms of like statement signing, do you think there's a deal that United can get done before the World Cup starts? As like if you're looking at trying to do a deal now early on, so say whatever happens regarding head coach, if Manchester United the season ends, can we get a deal done in a couple of weeks or get a deal done very soon to kind of kick the ball rolling? And I look at these players on the screen and think Anderson, I'm not sure. That's going to be one that I think City will click into gear. But if the Adam Wharton price is low, I don't think Belieber can be done that quickly as well. I think that might be difficult. I was kind of thinking that it might be like an Angela Stiller. Like Angela Stiller could be like potentially the first signing because of the price is like 42 million, and it could be like one of the best deals. I'm actually looking at it now thinking if there's seriously like an option to try and go for, I don't know, to try and go for maybe like a Wharton at that sort of price or Alex Scott. I think United should be like seriously considering these options. That would be good. So talking about Liverpool acquiring Wharton early on okay, a fan channel. Yeah, there is a lot of speculation. I think there was a few people like there's a few Liverpool people we were talking about Isak saying Isak's not going to happen at one point. I think that they didn't think it was going to happen because they bought Ekatike. And I think a few people thought that was going to be the case as well. And I think if Manchester United buy a midfielder early on in the window, I think it's pretty decent. So you like Angela Stiller, but the Tony Cruz stuff makes you think you're going to see him at Real Madrid. Maybe he's got he's got a release clause, 42 million. If Manchester United want Angela Stiller, we should just try. Like you get what's the worst case scenario? Like if you just try, see if you can get the player done. See if you can get that deal done. If you can get it done, absolutely fine. But at least find out that that's something that with the release clause, I think offer. Say to Stuttgart, like we want to get Angela Stiller. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I would say if the second one I'd be looking at would be. So if the second one, I would probably say I think Alex Scott is starting to actually, in my opinion, he's starting to like rise up the list of players I'd be looking at. I think Alex Scott is potentially a good option. And then saying how many times did I agree with Lou? I think we disagreed about quite a lot of things, but again, it's different opinion. For example, I would probably be I would not be selling Mainoo. I would not be selling Bruno Fernandes. I think transfer wise, I would be focusing on midfield as like where I'm putting the money. And I would say I wouldn't be selling any midfield player at the moment because I've been looking to build around what we got. Like if if we bought if we bought Angela Stiller plus Wharton, or if bought one of those players plus like a Tonali, I think in a year's time we'd have a very good idea of how good Mainoo is because he'd be having some serious competition. When your squad competition for places is Agate plus Toby Collier, we don't really get how good Mainoo is. If Mainoo's not playing and we see someone come in and Man United plays a lot better, we could have an argument. But it's very difficult when at the moment Mainoo is like the only real option to play alongside Casemiro. So again, I think competition for places is going to push things up, isn't it? And at the moment, Benjamin Sesko doesn't really have a competition apart from like actually trying to get into the team and us playing with a striker. I think the Almajalo and Buemo situation, and when was clearly competition there. I think Cunha doesn't really have lots of competition for his position, but I think Cunha is self-motivated and improves anyway. And maybe what we're looking at now is Aiden Heaven over the next year, I think could be serious competition. I would love to have a conversation where if I'm predicting a match next season and doing a match preview, and I look at Man United and go, right, we've got Mainoo, we've got Anderson, and maybe we've got Angela Stiller or Wharton. I'm kind of excited about, right, we've got some like genuine competition. Like we've got a couple of places here. We've got a lot of good options. It's actually quite difficult to pick which are the best ones. So analyze all our targets. Not one name scares me of being worse than Agate. No, I think Agate is going to be moved on, isn't he? In the summer, no one knows what's going to happen, but I think that's very sensible. So the thing I don't see many take into account is our owners. So we would have to trust them to sell a player like Mainoo and replace him. If we sold Mainoo, I don't trust our owners to get the best possible price, and I don't think that there does seem to be. It does make me think of like Alvaro Fernandez and Ghana. That at the time, even Alanga, we could have kept Alanga more or sold him for more. So we could have got more money from all those players that are leaving the club. I think most people agree that that's an issue. And if you sell a player, you have to buy someone better. Like there's no point selling Kobe Mainoo and not buying someone that's a significant upgrade. And if Manchester United sold Mainoo, you'd have to buy two players, wouldn't you? You'd have to then buy two instead of getting one player to play alongside Mainoo. You've got to buy Mainoo's replacement plus another, and then you'd have to spend a lot of money. And we're not an effect at the moment. We're not an effective selling club. We sell players, but we don't get the best possible price. And I think one thing we've seen recently is Michael Carrick is pretty determined not to push out anything negative about any player. So even in like the build-up or reaction to the Chelsea game, Michael Carrick was saying positive things about Mason Mount, positive things about Mainoo, positive things about the rest of the team. He's not going to be pushing out anything negative because if we do try and sell any of these players, we just want we just want to get the best possible price. So you can't have a situation where it looks like Man United are forcing a player out. That's just sensible. But there's no if you force a player out, we've seen that a few times now. If you force a player out, you're instantly devaluing them. You need to do it in a more sensible manner. So someone tell you the grass is much greener. Well, I think Garnacho thought the grass was a lot greener at Stamford Bridge, and I mean he got a very close view of it when Luke Shaw pushed him, flattened him. So I think Garnacho is realizing that it's not. It's the grass is not greener. He still needs to work hard if he wants to have a football career. So guys, if there's any questions, say that you want to put in as well. I know we've covered a lot of different things today. Like I said, in these streams, everything's on the table, everything's open for discussion. If you've got some thoughts, comments on anything as well, I think I've got a link to let me just check. I think I've got a link to the socials as well for people that want to get involved. I know there's a few people that do join the Discord, join the Facebook group. These are resources to just really like if you see some stories you want to talk about, you want to post information on, then this is like the perfect opportunity to like if you join a live stream, you can put your view out there and we can discuss it. But if you miss the live stream, obviously like catching back up with it will be ideal. But you can obviously post some comments on the socials to maybe like push that and maybe suggest what you want to see on a different stream because we will be covering pretty much everything. Big up to you, RK. So do you think Agate can go and we buy a new defensive midfield anchor? I think Agate is probably at the moment considering where he's going to go. I don't think it's a matter of can he go. I think it's a matter of Agate has to be realistic. I don't think Agate is going to be getting many minutes given the players we hopefully sign. So let me just copy this link just to. I think I've got a link to socials, but if you're on Discord or you're on Facebook or Twitter as well, the socials are there just for people that want to like put a comment out there. So I'll just pin that. So I'll go for a few questions as well because it's been like a busy stream. So a big shout out to people that have been getting involved and shout out to people from the like Liz community as well. So it's crazy how we bought Agate instead of Gomez and Andre, who are now at Wolves. We had the conversation last summer as well that Man United just didn't really buy particularly well with Agate. He was actually, yeah, he wasn't getting in the. I know Paris Saint-Germain have got a very good team, so we didn't actually. It's Agate got replaced by a better football player at PSG, and I think the super agent Mendes is partly responsible. I think United, yeah, it was a bit tricky. I say in January we were linked to players like Ndidi. Yeah, do you remember that? Do you remember the drama in January? It was all about mystery signings. Like lots of people had thumbnails with like blanked out pictures, and in the end, it was who is the guy that we were linked to? There was a couple of players. Like one was Ndidi, and that was worrying. That was really worrying. There was another player that I can't remember. I remember like talking about it at the time, but there was a couple of players we were linked to. I think everyone was talking about things. So same with Wharton. Do you remember when we looked at Wharton? Yeah, cheers, Berber. Your memory's better than mine. RK says with Wharton, we knew he was quality. We knew he was quality, didn't we? Before he went to Blackburn, we had this conversation. Like we looked at him. So before he went to Palace, we had this conversation, and we were like, support, sign him up. Like we knew he was good. It was a bit frustrating, wasn't it? Welcome, welcome, Nems. I hope I get your name right. Thanks for getting involved. So it was Loftus Cheek. Yeah, Ruben Loftus Cheek was the player that I think they said that he was this age, he played for this club, and we found out it was Loftus Cheek, and we were like, no, 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 no. Yeah, I thought there was actually going to be a decent signing. Yeah, the secret midfielder. I think the reason they kept it a secret was because when it became common knowledge, fans were not happy at all. That they should have just kept it a secret and never mentioned it. Oh, cheers, Nems. Appreciate you tuning in as well. Really thanks for the support. So maybe Hayden Hackney could be a good price potential mid. I think he is. I think he's like Hayden Hackney was there to be done in January if we wanted to get an upgrade on Nagate. One thing I saw with Hayden Hackney, he had a very good. He was very important when Michael Carrick was setting up a similar sort of style of play or similar lineup at Middlesbrough. And I think Hayden Hackney, the only thing I can think of, I'd be really interested to know that if Michael Carrick stays on, is Hayden Hackney someone they would consider? There was definitely links with Spurs, and I think a few Premier League clubs were looking at that one as well. Genghis, my man, good to see you. Long story. Can't say too much now, but people in the comments can fill you in. Yes, this is new for certain reasons, but big up to you. If you know mutual people in other channels that maybe don't know about it, please, please, then get involved and just let people know. But big up to you, Genghis. You're one of there's a few people actually that I'm just glad that you found us again. It's I kept everything the same, but I've had to restart unfortunately. But big up to you. Hackney's injured at the moment. Yeah, thank you. I don't know if you're in the Discord or in the socials, but gradually we've been building back. We're going to be building up quick, so I appreciate that as well. Yeah, definitely share and definitely get involved. Welcome, my friend. This is good though. This is good. It's kind of like gradually, I think what the algorithm is working out. So if you share it, yeah, 100%, it'll be really good. Yeah, 100%, definitely. We went past 500 pretty quick. Let's just get up there as fast as possible. And you guys have just been absolutely legendary for doing this. So, I mean, I'm going to keep going. There's like 30 in the chat. Let's just keep pushing. Road to 1K. Let's do it fast as soon as possible before the season finishes. Yeah, so like I said, I'm interested to see people's comments. The midfield one is interesting because we've all got very different views on this. I think that the thing that I'm kind of relaxed by is when I look at the players on the screen, I'm kind of comfortable with signing most of them. People are I think people are a bit questioning Belieber this year. But I think Manchester United still look at that as a player they could go for and a player that would still fit their team. And I'm open-minded. If Avel thinks that Belieber is still going to fit what Manchester United are trying to do, I think that United fans will probably be no one knows for sure, but if Belieber comes to Man United, it's going to be at a price I think at which will be a lot more sensible. And honestly, if Wharton is priced at 60-65, wow, crazy. Oh, nice one, RK. You're a legend. You're a legend. So I've got a pinned comment for socials as well. So I will be advertising in Discord and that Discord and Facebook every single day. So that's brilliant. And that's going to help a lot. Yeah, great. Also, Lou had different views on lots of things, which is absolutely fine. And I said that's fine. Because what I might do is at some point, maybe we'll look at. Someone actually mentioned this morning that maybe at some point, maybe it's going to be something at the end of the season. Maybe it's something like this regarding. There's going to be a few managers linked. So maybe what we'll be doing is, I'm just thinking in the future now, over the next couple of weeks, it might be that we do some group podcasts, and it might be that we get a few guests on to maybe get some guests on where we can look at maybe either 4 midfield options or maybe 4 head coach options, and everybody can put a case for each one, and we can have a proper debate. So it's a bit like if we had at least 4 midfielders, I would naturally gravitate towards Anderson. And if someone also wants to like discuss about Belieber or discuss Wharton, because everyone's going to have a slightly different view. And also, yeah, I will be doing something for the World Cup, like for sure. So Angela, say Stiller, Agume, Kone, get all 3 for 110 million. Happy days. I mean, if we start shopping in a bit more, if we start looking a little bit more sensible in terms of pricing, we can really actually get some. We can get some quantity in as well. So no, we will be covering the World Cup. When I said this earlier on, and I said like, can we get one statement signing in early? Can we get one player signed rapidly? And Tonali's not in the World Cup. So Newcastle will offer a high fee. I think that Italy qualifying isn't going to change the price, but it will mean that Tonali's not going to the World Cup. So it does mean that there might be it might be a bit of an easier negotiation. I know there's certainly some players that will be happy to sort out their career before they go to the World Cup. There may be some players that want to do the World Cup first. It might depend on with the World Cup starting quite early, that you don't want to. I think you don't want to have all this going on as a distraction for the World Cup. There's something that I'm wondering whether Anderson will sort his career out pretty rapidly. And so your assessment saying Wharton as a playmaker, I think some that not necessarily 100% my view, because I'm going by people's comments. A lot of people look at Wharton and say Wharton might well be, but Angela Stiller might have similar attributes, and it might be why Man United were looking at him as a potentially cheaper option. Anderson is obviously great at a lot of things, really good. I think Belieber was like really great at driving ball. Carries last season was very impressive. I think Belieber's one of these players that you could look at and say, yeah, it's not been working out this season for him, but United still see that he's got a certain value. They do look at him as a good option. So we need quantity. I know when I say we need quantity, I always get the feeling that people watching might think I'm compromising on quality, but I don't think we're not looking at bad options, are we? That if we're looking at players that are available for under 40 million or about 40 million, I think we can still list some good people, like some good signings. Shall I go till shall I make this a 2-hour stream? That'd be another 15 minutes. And then after that, I will have to jump off, but we will be back tonight. I might need a little bit of a break, but we will be back this evening. And Genghis, you're saying we need quantity for sure, but we don't want to jeopardize on quality too much. And say the scouting department, they've got to look at Le Mans as an idea that you don't have to necessarily spend really big to get the right players. Lammens being the example. We could have got Donnarumma. We could have got Emi Martinez. They would have been more expensive. The salaries would have been more. It would have been difficult to justify it based on what we've seen this season. So, informed believer with Mainoo would be something good. He's got the energy. I look at it and think that under Ruben Amorim, Belieber was heavily favoured because they were looking at someone that did have the more athleticism. But yeah, Belieber Mainoo deeper, Belieber ball carrying. It's one option, isn't it? And besides Hackney, is there any good players in the lower league we can get? It's a good question. It's a good question. I think are there any good players in the lower league we could get? It's tricky, isn't it? Trying to think of what options there are. I mean, Hackney's one that was talked about a lot. We did consider him. I'd imagine that when you start looking at Hayden Hackney costing 30 million, and if you look at Angela Stiller only being like 12 million more, then the price of championship players is actually it seems to be going up a bit. If you think about Premier League players, if you imagine like the relegation fight this season, you're going to have West Ham, you're going to have Spurs, you're going to have Nottingham Forest, 3 teams involved, and at the moment, the teams that are lower in terms of Spurs and West Ham, they have a lot of good players. They have a lot. There's a lot of money. So some of the teams near the bottom of the Premier League and at the top of the Championship, they're quite wealthy teams. So it's difficult to get cheap options. I think that's why Vale's looking at those sort of options. Any Man United youth current loan players that can play next season. Amas is one that maybe with Amas could be an option. And then with Kone, people are looking at that situation. Yeah, but potentially, like there is options for some players that can make the jump from academy, but I think it's going to be something we can't really rely on. That would be a little bit that's not something we should be doing, but it's something that I think there's definitely options there in terms of some academy players. I think maybe at the moment you'd look at Lacey as being someone that's going to be getting options. So Leicester just went down. Leicester are going down to League One, though, aren't they? Though, who will I cherry pick off the clubs possibly going down? So I said this already that let's see. When I was kind of writing off Spurs a little bit, but looking at what we actually need, then let me just check the league table. I just want to see what the Nottingham Forest situation is. But I suppose they're in the mix, aren't they? They're still going to be in around that area. So, so at the moment, Spurs only got 31 points. West Ham 32, but they do play tonight. Forest 36. So if Spurs got relegated, it's a difficult conversation because Spurs have got very high price tags on their players. If West Ham go down, then Fernandez becomes an interesting option. I think Diouf is another option as well. I think Forest have clearly got Murillo, but I think they want big money for him. Anderson, I think they want big money for him. I know it's a good question though. If people have got some different views, then we'll see. Yeah, Lacey is the one that people are thinking. So you're a big fan of international club partnerships. Cunha needs a new Brazilian. So does Mbeumo. Yeah, Agent Mbeumo. Agent Anana got Mbeumo in. No, yeah, maybe I'm trying to think. Is there any Brazilian players that we'd be looking at? But in terms of like the World Cup that people are mentioning, do you think the World Cup's going to push prices up? Like maybe it depends on. But for me, I'm going to guess that would Anderson sort out his career before the World Cup or after the World Cup? If Forest got relegated, maybe it happens sooner. I don't know if there's going to be different factors. I'm going to agree with Neil and say Spurs players at the moment. I don't think so, and it's a combination of they've not been playing particularly well this season. Most of them. I think they're going to be expensive, though. I don't think Spurs are going to be having. Spurs are a profitably run club, aren't they? They're not going to be. Spurs aren't going to be looking at trying to sell players. It's a situation where Spurs will have high prices anyway. Maybe it's different for West Ham. it might be different. It'll certainly be different for Wolves. Big up Jay. Jay says the price will go up. The price will go. If you remember last year, the prices started going up and up during the transfer window. So if you look at this as a like, say forget the players on the screen, like they're all good players. But if you consider that maybe one of these players gets bought early on, I think eventually when you start getting limited availability, the price will go up a little bit. So it could be that you've got Man United might have like say 8 midfield targets. You've got these players on screen. You could get Angela Stiller, Alex Scott, maybe Joe Gomez, maybe Hackney. So at least 8 players. And at some point in the transfer window, these players will get sold. And you saw like Gyökeres disappears, like Ekitike disappears, and gradually Benjamin Sesko becomes like more desirable because there's less options. And I think we're going to see exactly the same thing. When you've got all these options, you think actually, I feel relaxed at the moment, like because there's a lot of options. But if suddenly Tonali went to, I don't know, I don't think he's going to go to Italy, but if Tonali went to another Premier League team, or if Newcastle sold Gordon and said, right, Tonali's staying, and then Wharton went to Liverpool and Anderson went to Man City, then I would suddenly have a conversation where, if Angela Still is going to Real Madrid, suddenly you'd look at Belieber and think, actually, Belieber's value might start going up. And Alex Scott might suddenly be a player where you think, right, we need to make a serious offer to get him in. It's probably something where at the moment, United have to. We did nothing in January. If we drag our heels in the summer, I'm going to be a bit concerned. That last season, we kind of started quick with Cunha and then slowed down a lot. We need to be a bit quicker this time. Regarding Leon, so the young left back, he was signed. I think Leon was signed with the idea that he's not going to play for a couple of years. That's my best guess with that. I don't think Leon was supposed to be in around the first team. The difference with Aiden Heaven was when he was signed, the idea was he'd be fast tracked somewhat. It's yeah. And so look at Benjamin Sesko. His price could go up when the Euros did happen, the World Cup, etc. And so players' prices do go up for any club around World Cup. Yeah, it's probably this feels a bit like one of the bigger transfer windows, doesn't it? It's so I remember, yeah, Karel Poporski signed after Euros. That's true as well. I think probably you could look at Liverpool signing a couple of players after the Euros as well. Yeah, yeah. No, with this one, I think Leon, and I know people in the comments that will be a big fan of Orozco, who we signed as well. And I thought Orozco was going to be like up to 10 million, but no, apparently he was like about 1 million or less than 1 million. So these are like future players that we're going to see hopefully at some point. But to be honest, you don't look at that and say these are really, really cheap deals. The idea was that Manchester United sign these players, and then over the next couple of years, you can develop them, loan them out. And at the moment, they've got loads of raw potential. And for their age, they're the best players of their age. But to go from playing where they're playing to gradually up the levels until you get to close to a Premier League is going to take a few years, and at least 2 or 3 years. And that's why they're doing these signings. That we sign these players, and then they kind of go under the radar a little bit. But Leon's raw. He's got the potential, but he's raw talent. And we've got the same with Orozco, where people say he might be a bit more further developed. It's the same as like Chido, raw talent, one of the best at his age group, but it's a little bit, there's a little bit of patience with these ones. I say, yeah, Orozco, maybe look out for these players making it in the 21s to start with and look at them gradually coming through. It's something that we're not going to really, the fact that we're talking about it just shows how kind of on the ball we are with knowing exactly what's happening at that level. But these are players that maybe we're going to talk about them in a couple of years' time. But maybe we're not. We're going to be doing more of these signings every single season, and they won't all work out. But they don't cost much money, and it's a very sensible thing to do. It's one way of unearthing quality players that aren't going to break the bank. So you think Leon's going to come good? Well, I hope so. And the worst case scenario is he'll come through Manchester United, he'll go through the academy, and the worst case scenario is he'll be sold, and hopefully he'll have a football career somewhere in whether it's some decent league. That's kind of the minimum, and then Manchester United will then reinvest, and then we'll be looking at that as well. Yeah, I just saw one comment from where was it? From Stephanie. That was, I'd say, if you could click the likes, that'd be fantastic. 50 would be crazy considering where we were a week ago. This is literally like about day 8 of the rebuild. So if we got that, if we do hit 50, let me know, because that would be a landmark we've reached. That would be brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So I'm saying, don't know too much about Roscoe. No, there was limited information to start with. I remember reading about, my mind's kind of escaped which team he played for, but there was definitely talks about him probably about 6 to 9 months ago. And I think the Lyon was about a year ago as well. It's like last January was Lyon, wasn't it? So yeah, if he's not good enough, he's not good enough. But I think the thing is, by saying he's not good enough for Manchester United, that's probably an academy player coming through and not being good good enough for Manchester United is still not a problem, because if you sign a player and then you don't know where he's going to be in 3 years' time, it still could be a good signing, because the ones that do work out don't work out. It's fine. I think a lot of people, the way I look at the academy is there to try and look at the best players that are coming through as younger football players, and hopefully they're going to have a football career. That's going to be the key. And if it's at Manchester United, that's brilliant. If it's not at Manchester United, then they will have careers elsewhere. Manchester United will make some profit from those players, and then they'll reinvest it and try and get more. It's absolutely fine. This is a good shout, actually. Mathis Mane, 18-year-old from Wolves, is someone we should definitely steal from them. Great prospect, valued at 20 million. So 20 million is the price there. I mean, we're kind of in the market, aren't we, for trying to get like some backup striker cover, Premier League experience. I know people will look at the situation at Wolves. Wolves have got a combination of like, okay, we played one game where they were quite poor, but they put some decent performances in recently. They've got a couple of good players there. It might, no, that's the sort of price that if that became a serious option, that's kind of another one as well. If we're looking at trying to get players that are of that sort of, I know, 20 million pound price point where you could get a couple, it's not a bad option, is it? Just to say to Danny that there was a question that somebody posted earlier today saying, which academy players do you think will play next season or get some option to play next season? I think my prediction for this season was maybe Kone initially early on, and I thought maybe Aiden Heaven's going to make some progress. I think at the moment, probably the player we saw get a couple of games was Lacey. I think we saw Fletcher a little bit. Who do you predict is going to be someone we see a lot more of next season? That maybe with extra games, like some possibly like on the bench for Champions League games, depending on what players are playing. There's a few options, isn't there? There's a few options. So Mane's versatile centre midfield, attacking midfield. I mean, maybe we should ask. Yeah, maybe like it's probably not a bad option. I think 20 million pounds. If they look at him as like a player they could develop, it's not the worst option. It's not. I think we were looking at, say, Thiago at Brentford, but I think they want to spend too much on him. Say Thwaites is like the one that people are talking about. Neil says Lacey as well. Yeah, Lacey looks. I think the thing that's exciting about Lacey was what a tremendous shot he had. Like he bent one shot and that hit the crossbar, and it looked like he had something to his game. Then he got a stupid red card, didn't he? Has 100 million pound rated. Like, how much did he go for? Like 30. Tyler Dibbling even played for Everton. I don't know actually. With this one, with Tyler Dibbling, I do believe that Neil actually knows his family. He's from Devon, isn't he? So I think that Tyler Dibbling was linked to Man United briefly. Cost a lot of money. I don't know. I mean, Everton got Jack Grealish, and he probably played a bit more. I just remember that the numbers quoted for certain players have been insane. One thing I will add is that if you look at the players on screen, they've all been quoted at 100 million pounds at one time or another. Like Adam Wharton was quoted at being at least over 80. Belieber was quoted at being over 100. Tonali's been called like a 100 million pound option. And if you look at that, even today, like this is the news from today, they're saying that Tonali won't go back to Italy because he costs 100 million pounds. And you look at it and go, Man United leading the race to sign Tonali mainly because there's no teams can afford him in Serie A, and Newcastle need the money. Like Newcastle will need to buy players. So yeah, it's every single player that's linked does cost about 100 million, and this is kind of what I want to say about that is that when we get closer to the window, what do people think is going to be a realistic price? Like when someone posted in the comments that there might be an agreement that Wharton can go for 60 to 65 if Crystal Palace don't get Champions League football, and then you look at the other options, like are Brighton going to reevaluate how much they want for Belieber? I think Anderson is probably still going to be very high. I think Tonali is going to still be very high. But given that there's other options in different leagues, there's other options in terms of, like, just off the top of my head, I could look at it and say, I think there's definitely a lot of evidence to suggest that Manchester United will go for Angela Stiller. I think there's a lot of evidence to suggest that the Alex Scott price is very negotiable and could come down from what Brentford want, from what Bournemouth want, to a more sensible price. And I think if that starts happening, then potentially Brighton will have to reevaluate. Otherwise, they won't go. Yeah, Cheeto actually, I would say, Cheeto's progressing. I think the jump from academy to like the first team was a bit much, and Cheeto got thrown in a bit at the deep end. Yeah, if we sign Stiller, then Christopher Bell might be the guy making the decision now. I'm just reading that and just looking at it, thinking there is the conversation that maybe okay. Just to look at this point to say maybe in that case, maybe Tonali should, yeah, maybe they should just put out the story that he's too expensive and go with that. That might be a better story, a better angle for Tonali. That's an interesting one for sure, isn't it? That is a yeah. I hadn't heard that though. I heard people looking at him thinking that it was expensive, but I hadn't really heard that angle. That's yeah, interesting to hear. But maybe that it does kind of take, I suppose, a few teams out of the conversation, doesn't it? I don't think Man City are going to pay 100 million pounds for Anderson and 100 million pounds for Tonali. I mean, I could be wrong, but yeah. So I was thinking that make him an offer he can't refuse. It might be that the story that was I started with today, and I'll just finish with the same story. The story that I heard today was that essentially Newcastle need to sell one player. And it could be Gordon. It's unlikely to be Bruno Guimaraes. It could be Tonali. So Newcastle need to sell one player at the moment. That was the story I saw Romero. I don't want Romero. This is the story I want to talk about. And it does mean that if Gordon goes, and Gordon apparently wants to play for Liverpool. I mean, I don't mind if Gordon goes to Liverpool. He's not a player I want at Man United. Then maybe Tonali's not allowed to leave. That could be the situation. But if Man United want Tonali, this is kind of the idea about the stream. If Man United want Tonali, we probably need to make a serious offer quite early just to test the water. Say, but I don't think we should go insane. I think we should make a sensible offer, a credible offer, but I don't think we should go crazy. We should look at what we value. If we look at a valuation of Tonali and go, right, we value Tonali at, like, I don't know how much you want to pay, but everyone's gonna have a different view. If we put a price out there and go, we want to pay this, and they say no, I think Man United can walk away and go to the next option and say, right, let's have a look at the situation regarding maybe Alex Scott, maybe Wharton, maybe Stiller, and then like Tonali could be someone that you could go back to. I'm just saying I'm just saying that there's no like, it's not like we're chasing one player, is it? So Newcastle won't be sensible. No, Newcastle want a very high price, like a very high price, because they know they probably need to. I know Newcastle fans are kind of bullish about their financial situation, but they're not going to sell him cheap, are they? So I want the player. Newcastle do not want to sell a player. So Agumi has superior stats in possession, 1 forward passes, dual success compared with Tonali, and a third of the price. Yeah, do you think like that with like you put a Gume in there and you also look at Buwadi as well as a very good player, but maybe a bit younger, and then you look at Stiller. I think there's options out there, isn't it? That's what Ravel's like gambling on. I think if you can get 3 players for 100 million or 2 players for 100 million, I think you have to look at it, and that the price is a bit more sensible. I'm just wondering whether if United have to be a bit bold to try and do this, and maybe this would be something sensible. Like if we could do this is tricky, isn't it? But if we could do the sort of deal we did for Lamans, but with players in midfield, where we go based on like information, scouting, some of the stats, and go right. This player is a bit under the radar in terms of like, no, he's not Donnarumma, he's not like Trafford, who we looked at a lot as well. He's not Emi Martinez, who we know a lot about, and go down that route. You don't have to sign. Like, I'm not saying we should sign all our players at say that sort of price, but if you get a couple, then yeah, that's why I think these were the players that Pavel was referring to. Like Pavel was looking at say Agume. If he's a fan of Buwadi, Agume, Buwadi, Angela Stiller, these are really good options, and these actually become like a part of a sensible strategy where you're not going to spend. You're not going to, we're not going to spend 500 million, are we? So a big up Mapaku. I think I recognize the account. If I do, then thanks for finding us again. Really appreciate it. And like I said, get Alex Scott, Baliba, Wharton, forget all this Tonali and Anderson, get Diamonde. These are these are big names. I would say looking at that, Alex Scott is someone that has been. You know how you get like a trend in transfers and you see like gradual momentum building? Alex Scott seems to be someone that gradually people are talking about a bit more. And it's starting to get to the stage where we're seeing valuations being put on the player and we're starting to see Bournemouth will sell. They're just positioning they're kind of setting out their stall saying this is what they want. I did see the comments regarding Boadi. I think Boadi's only 18, so really great shout. But again, I think we need to be careful about saying that United are going to be looking for a bit of experience as well. He would definitely be at the sort of conversation where we could be looking at. Somebody mentioned Hjulmand actually recently. I can't remember who it was now. I think Jules mentioned Hjulmand and said that he'd been impressed by what he'd seen recently. Sangare is definitely another one on the radar as well. There's a lot, isn't there? You could look at it and say when you start looking at it into detail, you can actually get a few players and not look at crazy money. It's going to be, I think, a sensible way of doing it. So I'm probably going to have to wrap up pretty soon because it's been like a really long stream. But before I do, if I do a stream at 7, now big up to you, big up to you. No, yeah, we had to unfortunately restart, and it was genuinely difficult. Just a quick question. What do you think in terms of like stream tonight? Because we could continue this discussion tonight, but in terms of like thumbnail, title, are we looking for something similar? Like maybe I'm looking at we have the same sort of conversation, but if people got suggestions of news they've seen, please leave a comment on the video, and I will be looking to try and do something similar because this conversation is going to keep going and going. I'm going to be looking out for news article and seeing. Hjulmand, I was kind of lukewarm on, like nothing different, no, nothing against him. I was kind of lukewarm a little bit on him. I just thought he was like decent, but I thought there were better options out there. and maybe it was a bit like was questioning whether he'd suit the Premier League. If I'm honest, it might be a little bit to do with speed, possibly. Yeah, we did. We certainly did, Gregory. We certainly did. No, also I think Sporting might have a price that's a bit too high. That's my kind of guess regarding that one. So not a bad option for maybe depending on where you're looking at. Debassis, you didn't just join Debassis. You've been here a while, haven't you? You didn't. You've been here a while, my friend. No, I can't do 3 hours. I'm literally 2 hours is a long time. But now we will be doing long streams at the moment because. And what time suits us for live? Then do some polls in the stream. Yeah, good idea. Really good idea. Quick question. You can put yes or no. Do you care about the West Ham game tonight, or should we just go for a stream that's going to be like 7 or 8 and just keep going? I'm happy with either way. I'm not sure if I can get guests on, but it doesn't matter. We can get a conversation going. So yeah, we'll do something like that. Something along the lines of check around 7. But again, I got to do a few other things. Check around 7. If not 7:38, it'll be something along those lines. And we will be doing this one. Alex Scott is one that we have looked at as well. Big up to you, Genghis. Great to get you guys back as well. Don't forget to just share, and gradually we'll see more of you next time. Yeah, no, just post some comments on what you want to see in terms of which option, because tonight might be a long stream as well, and we'll cover all these things. But I need to have a bit of rest before then. A big to you guys, and the pinned links in the Discord Facebook group for suggestions and things. It will be more of the same, I think, in terms of news coming out. Yeah, Jeef is like a good player to watch as well. Manager options possibly, yeah, there is that as well. There is that. I'm kind of thinking that's going to be one where I can get a panel on and we can actually look into that. I did do something this morning though, so I might. Yeah, no, I'm going to try not to, Gregory. Streams will gradually get a little bit later. It's a bit shorter, I think, a bit shorter. But no, thanks everybody for watching. Massively appreciate the support, and please join the Discord or Facebook group if you want to be kept up to date when we're streaming. But check around 7 p.m. UK time. But around about then, hopefully maybe slightly later, will be when we're doing the stream tonight. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.